Hey there, Terror Talk fans. Are you looking for a new way to let your voice be heard? If so, check out our friends at Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for creating your very own podcast. They offer editing tools to create your podcast, which include your audio, listener audio, unique transitions, and custom advertisements. In addition, they'll also help you distribute your podcast to other listener sources, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. With this unique app, you also have the chance to get paid for your podcast by simply placing ads for various sponsors in your videos. Best part of it all? It is 100% free. Anchor does all the work for you and makes podcasting as simple as turning on a light. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM. Whether you're new to podcasting, doing it as a hobby, or hosting a professional show, Anchor is the place for you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and you are listening to another episode of The Terror Talks. We are here on episode 6. That's right, episode 6 today, ladies and gentlemen, and we are doing another film review, reaction type of episode. Today, we got to see the movie A Quiet Place Part 2. This was a highly anticipated film. I think a lot of people were very excited when they heard that this movie was going to be coming out. It's a film by John Krasinski. I think I'm saying his name right. John Krasinski. His name's really not that hard to say, but whatever. But it's another film by him. It picks up right where the second one or the first one left off. And wow, it was actually a very good movie. We are going to read you the synopsis real quick so you can just kind of get an idea. And this is it. Following the deadly events at home, the Abbott family must now face the terrors of the outside world as they continue their fight for survival in silence. Forced to venture into the unknown, they quickly realize that the creatures that hunt by sound are not the only threats that lurk beyond the sand path. Ooh. This is a very interesting film. Stars Cillian Murphy as a new character, Emmett. We'll talk about him shortly. We do see a little bit of John Krasinski while he's not doing all the directorial type things. You see a little bit of him. Emily Blunt is back as Evelyn. Noah Jupe, I think is his name, is back as Marcus Abbott. And you're probably going to hear me refer to him a lot in this episode as Discount Gaten Mazzarato, just because that's who he reminded me of the whole time, especially in this movie. Like, it was very reminiscent of Gaten's Stranger Things character. So there's that. We also have Millicent Simmons back as Reagan Abbott. And for those of you who don't remember, that's the young deaf girl in the film. And those are the big main characters for this film. There's a lot of other side characters, or I say a lot, not that many side characters, but they're still, at moments, they are crucial to the plotline. So, let's just dive right in. A Quiet Place Part 2. Let's see, where do I even begin with this? So, at the beginning of it, you almost don't know what to expect, and here's why. When it started, I legit thought we were going to get a prequel. I didn't get a chance to see the trailers for this film. I didn't get to kind of prep myself and see what exactly I was in for. And so because of that, I didn't know what this movie was going to be about. I didn't know the time period. I didn't know who was in it. I didn't think that John Krasinski was even going to appear in this film, even in flashback form. Boy, was I wrong. And it started at the very first scene in the movie. It begins on day 1. If you remember in the first Quiet Place, they kind of kept track of the days, day 1, day 300, yada, 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 yada. This one started on day 1. And as soon as that happened, I went, oh, okay, this is interesting. Very, very, very interesting. I was very curious. Were we getting a prequel to the first one? Was this going to be something different? Were we going to get answers and kind of see what led up to the events of A Quiet Place? And yes, you get it, but no, you don't get it. It's very complicated. It's really not that complicated, but it just seems complicated in my head. So, it starts off showing you what happened on day one. And it's easy to throw you off because here comes John Krasinski right out the gate rolling up in his pickup truck. And it's clattering and making noise, comes to a screeching halt. So I'm just like, okay, so clearly the world hasn't quite gone to shit just yet. So there's some good things happening, some very good things happening. And then before you know it, we realize that they were exactly right. The world has not gone downhill just yet. We are at the very beginning of, I guess you wouldn't call it a pandemic, or even I guess you would kind of call it, we are at the beginning of the apocalypse. That's the word we'll use for it. We're at the beginning of this apocalypse where shit is just starting to hit the fan. And let me tell you, they don't pull back any punches because they know just how to tease you into thinking that, oh, it's easy suburban life. Everything's great. It's going to be awesome. And then they rip the rug right out from underneath you. And I love it's not a very slow build-up, but it's just slow enough to keep you wondering. And so it starts out with everybody, literally the entire town is at a baseball game. And out of nowhere, they see this strange kind of comet, if you will. Something's on fire coming down to Earth. I don't really know how to describe it. It's very, very extraterrestrial is the only way I can really place it. But we see that. We see, we get to see like what normal life is like for John Krasinski's daughter, who is, like, as we established, she's deaf. She cannot hear. And so we kind of see them, working with sign language to speak to her, and it's really cool. And there's this other guy who's there watching the baseball game with all of them. And, at a first glance, I don't think anything of him. Like, it never even crossed my mind that he would be essential. I just thought he was he was at the beginning stages of this. Turns out, he actually ends up playing a very integral role in this film entirely. So, we kind of see him not really pick up on how to do the sign language, but he does learn one really neat sign language that comes in handy later in the film, and the deaf daughter teaches him how to say dive in sign language. And so bear that in mind, we'll talk about it later. But so he learns that, but he almost seems like a bit of a douche, but we just go on with our lives about it. We don't think too much of him. So then they show the chaos starting, the creepy sound aliens. I don't think they have a name. That I don't have a name for them. I've never heard a name in the first one or the second one, so we're just going to call them like the sound aliens. That's their name now. Sound aliens. I like it. So we kind of see them come down and start wreaking havoc, and then everything goes dark, and then we time jump to day like 4. I want to say it was like 484 or something. It was somewhere up in the 400s, I know that much. And it is right after John Krasinski has just died. So it picks up right after A Quiet Place Part 1, which apparently that's what threw my mind through a loop. Because I was like, okay, I know he died, but you're showing him. And so then I thought it was a prequel, but then it picks up right where we were. So at this point, I don't even know what the hell to believe anymore. So we're at present. We're at the present. He's dead. It's great. It's not great, but you know what I mean. So we kind of see them pick up the pieces of their life just after this death has happened. We see them kind of gather up a few things, and before you know it, they hit the road. They're going down. And what's interesting is the daughter is kind of picking up where John Krasinski left off, where his character left off, in that she's trying to piece together how to use, if you remember from the first film, she used the hearing aid with the microphone and the amplifier as a weakness for the creatures. And so she's kind of toying with it, figuring out how it works exactly, and seeing if there's a way to defeat these guys. And so they've got a map, she's got all of her dad's stuff, and she's kind of looking to see, are there other people in the area? And it just so happens she gets up high enough and she sees another fire going in the distance, leading her to believe, okay, there's somebody else alive out here, let's go to them. So she gathers up her family, and they go. Apparently you listen to the deaf girl because she's in charge. Pretty interesting, actually. Mom listens to the child. Whatever. Cool. So they go, and they're obviously tensions are very high. And let me tell you, with this film, I mean, the editors, the director, sound crew, everybody, anyone who had like just the production side of this did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, because they were able to build that suspense that I think holds true to the original film. And at the same time, though, it doesn't copy and paste the original film, which was my big fear. Was I thought this was going to be another copy and paste thing. The whole thing is absolute silence the whole time. We're going to weave in and out of silence, and silence through a deaf person's ears. I thought it would be another cut and paste. It was not. It was everything but that. They used a lot of those similar elements, but they also were able to do new things that I thought, like, there was actual talking in this film. That's the big selling point for me, is there was actual dialogue between characters. And so I was just like, thank you, Jesus. You gave us real dialogue, real interactions. It wasn't all facial. Because I guess after the first one, I mean, where do you go from there? And so you kind of make it more like a regular movie. Anyways, so they go to this abandoned, I guess it's like an oil rig kind of thing, but not an oil rig. It's like an oil rig on land, basically. And so they go there, and what should happen but one of the kids gets his foot trapped in a bear trap and instantly just starts screaming bloody murder. And let me tell you, when that happened, I just remember grabbing my mouth and just going, oh my God, that looks so painful. Like, I couldn't be quiet in that. I don't blame the kid for letting out this blood-curdling scream. I mean, you just had your leg chomped into by a bear trap. Like, I think they have exclusive rights to go ahead and scream in this strange apocalyptic world. Go ahead, let it out. You need one good scream at this point. If the monsters come, we'll knock you out and just keep you quiet at that point once they get here. But go ahead, give them a minute to really let that pain out. So I don't blame them one bit. So they chomp down on his leg, and oh God, it's horrible. And the mom tries to come down, and she's trying to tell the kid, shut up. I know it hurts, but you can't scream. But that ain't working. I mean, come on. Like I said, the kid just had his leg basically, well, not basically, but almost amputated by a bear trap. That, I'd be screaming not only from the pain, but I think I'd also be screaming going, you know what? We're in an apocalypse. I ain't got my damn tetanus shot here. Like, who knows what type of infection you're getting from that? I mean, that thing, it wasn't clean either. It was rusty. Like, that thing was, it was nasty looking. So anyway, she tries to keep him calm and quiet, and she eventually pries the trap off of him and picks him up. And they try to get on the run because the creatures are now after them. They found them. Luckily, we have this man who we kind of see him looking through a sniper scope, but we don't really know what he's doing. Well, the girl uses her little tool with the hearing aid and the speaker and the microphone to weaken the monster in that moment, which is great. They really needed that at that point because, yeah, there wasn't going to be much survival if they didn't. So they do that, and the mysterious hero man, comes out with his gun ablazing and goes pop pop right into the creepy sound creature thing from whatever. So they kill that thing and they go running, and they get down like under the ground. They've got like a secret chute that takes them under the ground, and then another kind of like soundproof room that they lock them all in to just so they can figure things out, basically. I think it's like the inside of a boiler, so like there's no air in there, and that also becomes a very intricate part of the story later, because you notice he has like a towel rigged up so when he closes it, it doesn't lock him in. It merely wedges the door shut, but he can still push it out and get out later if he needs to. And you can only be in there for a certain amount of time, so they always have a stopwatch when they're in there just to make sure, hey, am I going to die in here? Do I have enough oxygen? That kind of thing. So, like, there's a system here. He's got this system worked out. What we soon realize, they're all kind of sitting there, and the guy's telling them, you can't stay here. It's the typical apocalypse thing, I can't help you, yada, yada, yada. We all know he's going to turn. He's going to say, yeah, okay, fine, you can stay. I'll help you. What I didn't realize in the moment, this is the guy from earlier in the film who was like at the baseball game and who was friends with, his name was Lee, John Krasinski's character, Lee. He was friends with him. And so they all know each other. And so it's just like, okay, well, ain't this a great coincidence that you just happen to be the one that saved us? So that really works well in their favor in this moment. Because, scary movies, you gotta have coincidences like that, I guess. I don't know. So anyways, he tells them, you need to leave, but then they convince him. They're like, what would Lee do kind of thing. It's like, oh, okay, you stay. Well, next they happen to turn on the radio, and while they're searching on the radio, they hear a song on there. Some music is being played. It's Beyond the Sea. And they hear that playing, and the daughter she's like, oh, we've listened to this station 1,000 times. Nothing's ever come on it. Well, what they failed to realize is they were down in a valley. He's up high on like a mountain peak thing. And so because of this, he's able to pick up more signals, more frequencies. So this works very well to their advantage. So they hear it, and the daughter, I guess she sits around stewing, trying to figure out what it could be, because it's just been playing for 4 months, apparently. Finds out it's a clue. And then she goes and tells her brother, hey, I'm going to go find out where this is. I'm going to get to that. It's an island. They're going to go to the island and then broadcast the big ear-piercing feedback weapon across it so everybody can kill these creatures. Brother tries to talk her out of it, but in typical movie fashion, she ignores him, goes anyway while they're all sleeping. This is where the movie gets very, very interesting to me. Like, it really threw me off. I was like, what the hell are we doing, people? Because clearly there is no sense of brain function with anybody. So it gets fun here. So the mom realizes her daughter's gone. She asks the friend, hey, can you please go get her and bring her back? He reluctantly eventually says, yes, I'll do it. So he goes off to find the girl, the daughter. While he's off looking for her, the mom ends up saying to her boy, I've got to go out and get supplies so that the baby, in case you don't remember, they had a baby in the last one, and they've rigged up this chest with a breathing tube so that the baby can get oxygen inside that chest in case it starts to cry. They can keep the baby alive and not, be accused of baby murder. So she tells the son, who, bear in mind, has the injured barefoot thing going on. So he's not exactly capable of doing a whole lot here. Basically says, hey, I gotta go out. And he's like, no, don't go. But she's like, no, trust me, if you want to live, I gotta go. So she leaves him, and he's alone with the baby now. And so now everyone's kind of, like, we have 3 side missions going on here. Like, it almost turns into a little bit of a video game in a way, because you got your main characters and then you got your side quests. So over on the main character side, we've got the deaf daughter and the friend, the guy. And in case, I don't know if any of my listeners here have ever played the video game or watched gameplays of The Last of Us. Very popular PlayStation game made by Naughty Dog. This basically becomes The Last of Us for their story, because it's just him and her for the rest of this. So he ends up showing up and saving her because one of the monsters has her cornered and she can't hold the speaker and everything else and shoot a gun all at the same time. Like, he can't do it. It's not very possible. So what ends up happening is he comes up and saves her, and basically she's like, you have to help me carry this out. You told me you wanted to save your wife. Like, you have to help me. Now, granted, his wife is dead now. His kids are dead. And, he had basically said, there was nothing I could do. And so the deaf girl basically says, now you can do something. You can make a difference here. So it's that big, you can make a difference morality tale. So he agrees to help her. So they continue off on their quest. And then we jump back over to the mom, she's scavenging for things. It's great. And then we jump back over to the son, who's taking care of the baby. So they're playing babysitter simulator, apocalypse style. And so this is where things start to get intense as night starts falling. So the boy decides it's a great idea to just leave their little hideout where they can freely make noise and stuff. Or not freely make noise, but make enough noise to survive. He decides it's a great idea to leave there and go investigate where this guy's been staying to see if, I guess, he's an alright guy or something. I don't know. So he climbs up to the top and starts looking around. And while he's up there, he finds a dead body, who we can only presume is the guy's wife. So that kind of makes him out to be a little bit of a not-so-nice guy. Just because I don't recall if he said that she died before they got there, or when they got there, or how that whole thing came about. I don't know. So that happens. He gets scared. He makes a crap ton of noise. And voila. Sound creatures are back in the game. So then we jump over to the mom. And she is kind of in a similar situation. She's running back with oxygen tanks and a bag of medicines and such. Like, she's running back, but she's keeping quiet. And so we're just kind of watching her right now. So we don't know what's going to happen with her. We jump over to man and child. They have found a boat. And so they're down on the docks looking to see what this boat is. And they get attacked, ambushed by, we'll just call them pirates, because I don't think we ever really established who they were. But they're these, like, pirates who set a trap on the man with, like, bottles all around his ankles. Basically, if he moves, he's screwed. And they kind of take the girl hostage. This is where things get intense. So we dive back down to where the little boy is. And so during all of this, they're all kind of bouncing between the three moments. It's very meant to build anticipation here. Like, oh, geez. It had me just kind of like biting my nails going, come on, come on, come on. Either someone's going to die or someone's going to survive. I don't know. You really had no idea. So we see the boy, he has alerted the sound monsters and they're chasing him downstairs. He gets all the way down to the bottom, gets the baby and everything, stuffs it inside the soundproof room, slams the thing shut, but forgets to put the towel latch on to let him get out in case he needs air. So he has just effectively messed his whole life up. And not just his baby sister. So immediately here I am going, okay, so John Krasinski's gone too far. He's going to basically show us what you do in a life and death situation where it's brother and baby sister. Luckily, I was wrong. The brother did the very brave thing, and he kept sharing the oxygen between him and his sister as much as he could. Then we jump back to the mom. The mom has realized, she sees what's happening from outside of where they are. So she comes in and she kind of like sets a trap with one of the air tanks to blow up. And so she like blows it up, and then once she does that, she starts this big old fire and looks up and realizes, oh no, there is a sprinkler system right above her head. This makes things so much more complicated because that thing is going to make a lot of noise when it starts pouring water on top of her. And basically, that's the end of that, because once it starts, you get all sorts of craziness. The monster realizes where she is, so she has to run downstairs. Luckily, she eventually makes it downstairs and gets inside the soundproof room, realizing what her stupid son had done. And she hops in there and she locks the thing appropriately so they can get out in case they need to. Well, now over on the side where we have the man and the daughter, they're trapped. They don't really know what to do. The pirates are kind of looking at the girl's hearing aid. They take it like you're just begging for someone to say something, because the guy wants to say something and basically say, you can't do this. We need that. That's going to save everybody. But there's nothing he can say because it's going to make noise. So what he ends up doing is they start kind of walking her away. Like, I guess, they're going to take her hostage or kill her or something. We don't really know. We recall what happened earlier in the film with the sign language. The one piece of sign language he learned was dive. And they're on a dock. So she just happens to look back at him and he does the sign language for dive. And it's like, oh, okay, I see. Now it comes back into play. It harkens back to an earlier moment in the film. So she dives headfirst in that water, and he kind of starts making a bunch of noise and basically strangles the lead pirate up to a pole. And then all of a sudden, all the sound monsters come out and they're gnashing and freaking out and killing people. He stabs the guy he is tied to the pole in the leg so that he'll start screaming. And as soon as the sound monster jumps for him, he dives in the water so he can avoid that. Well, he struggles for a little bit to get out of the water and not die, but he manages to save himself, so he's good. And so the little girl and him escape on a little rowboat to the island that they're trying to get to. Well, what they show you in this clip of them kind of sailing off, they show another boat. And they showed one of the sound monsters jumping into the water. And I don't remember if this was established in the first one or if it was just newly established in this one. These things cannot swim. So we see one of them drown when it jumps in. But then we see another one, you vaguely see it. He's on a boat, kind of like hanging out there. And that boat's just kind of drifting away. Well, you see it kind of drifting towards the island. And when I saw it, I thought like, oh, this isn't good. But then they almost play it off like nothing bad is going to happen here. Like, they make it seem like nothing is wrong. So we see them, they kind of win the day. They're heading to the island. And then we jump back to mom and son. They're doing okay. Like, everything is doing very good here. Once they get to the island, they meet the people. They find out literally everybody's talking as loud as they possibly can. It's basically normal life. Well, what they find out is that the Coast Guard sent for boats to take everybody to the island, and it turned into a big free-for-all and didn't end well for many. And so only a handful of them got there. But they did discover that they were the ones broadcasting the song Beyond the Sea to basically leave a bread trail to say, hey, we're on an island. Get to the island, you'll be safe there. So what happens, they get there and they're all kind of talking, it's great, like everything's really nice. Well, like any good horror movie, bad stuff happens when you least expect it. So, what ends up happening here is they're kind of walking around the island. They talk to the guy who's in charge. He says, okay, I'll broadcast the feedback to kill the monsters. the man is kind of walking around the island checking things out when he hears something. And he realizes that he sees the boat that one of the creatures had basically just sailed over on. And so he runs to tell everybody, and then all hell breaks loose. The creature is literally running. It's just one, luckily, so they can handle one. But it's still very, very intense. So this creature's running about, causing mass freaking hysteria. It's insanity. And the leader he hides his children in a soundproof room and whatnot, and basically says, I'll take you to where they're broadcasting from so you can do this little thing to save us all. So he does that. He drives them off. And so while they're driving off, we flash back over to the mom and the son, who are fighting for their lives at this point, because one of the oxygen tanks was just used to create an explosion, and now this one is just basically providing for them because they can't go outside of this soundproof room. Well, they can, but they risk, getting attacked by these creatures. So they're fighting for their life over here, and then we jump back over to the island. They get all the way to the place where the radio broadcast is coming from, and they blare a horn to kind of lure it away the whole time. It's great. It works. Well, the leader of the island ends up getting killed as soon as they get there, so Deaf Girl and Guy have to go in there and basically figure out how to do this on their own, and all while being hunted down by this creature. Well, they finally get to they get to the money shot, basically. They find the studio where the thing is being broadcast from, and the girl's going. She's trying to go by herself. The guy's kind of like hanging back just to watch out for her. Well, at the last minute, she opens a door, and it just happens to go creak, 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 like a bunch of creaky noises, screws up the whole plan, basically, and the creature's going after her. So the guy basically slams her inside the studio and sacrifices himself, but he doesn't die. He merely gets stabbed in the leg. Once she's in there, everything, like, it turns into this slow motion, action-packed moment. We see her slowly reaching and, putting the earpiece up to the microphone, and it's this epic music is playing the whole time. And then we flash back over to the mom and son, who are, at this point, excuse me, they're basically fighting for their lives because they kind of opened the door to get a little bit of fresh air, but the creature happened to hear them, and it's like trying to break in. Luckily, they're inside, like, it's literally like a little porthole almost. So it can't quite fit in, but it's trying. Like, it's really trying. It's slashing at them. So the girl does it. She gets the thing up to it and makes it so everything can hear it. It's being broadcast over the air, and it can be heard everywhere. And this is like it's like a bittersweet kind of moment. What ends up happening is, over here on the island, the sound is torturing the creature, and the girl walks up to it, kind of backs it into a corner, and stabs it right through its weak spot, which is somewhere in its head. It kills it. Over in the other world, the boy has had the radio on, and he's keeping it on so he knows when she does this. As soon as he hears the god-awful feedback, he unplugs the headphones and blares it at the creature and backs him into a corner. And he ends up picking up the gun that the mom had. She had dropped it outside. He grabs the gun and pops a bullet right into the creature, killing him. And this is a really cool parallel right here, because you see both young kids basically are having to step into these not leaders, but very mature roles for people their age. So you see this happen, and you're just like, wow, that's intense. That's very intense. And they both kill their creatures, and everybody just kind of takes a sigh of relief. And that's the end of the movie. So yeah, that's A Quiet Place Part 2. Gonna be super honest. I loved the movie. I thought it was great. I really don't know how I felt about that ending. It really, it's very, they left it very open-ended, much like with part 1. Like, they left part 2 just as open-ended. So, anything could happen now. And I think what I want to know is, do they use this new found weapon? Well, it's not a newfound weapon. We found it in the first one. But it's a newfound weapon to the world that they can use. Do they use this to defeat the creatures? That's what I want to know. But of course, we're not going to get told that in this one. Because they just go straight to blank, and that's the end. All in all, it's a great film. Like, I was very impressed with it. I thought they had this very nice kind of blend between horror action survival kind of film. They definitely played with those auditory senses a lot in it, just like the first one, and I kind of love that about it. Like, I think that's always a big ticket in horror films. You get all this silence and then boom, this big jump scare with this loud, either musical beat or screeching noise, and that's the thing with this movie. You get those moments, but it's with everyday items. Like, it could literally be something as simple as damn marbles hitting the floor. But it scares you because everything's quiet. And then, boom, it hits you. And it's really funny because there was one part of the movie, it was dead silence on the film. And rows behind me were a bunch of teenagers. And I think a girl back there sneezed. And when she sneezed, it scared the absolute crap out of me. Because it was dead silence. It was a very suspenseful moment. And then I heard, achoo! And I about jumped out of my damn skin. Because I was like, who is in this theater with me? And I'm like, I know there's people in the theater with me. But apparently, my senses were so overwhelmed that I lost it. I completely forgot. And that just speaks volumes to how well they did this. Like, I can imagine the nightmare it was on the editing room floor, just because it's like, okay, another quiet shot, and boom, loud shot. But it was still very, very good, very well done. I was very impressed. I highly, 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 highly recommend it. I think that if you should get a chance, definitely go see it. And I guess that's really if you don't care about the spoilers, because I basically just gave you the play-by-play of the film at this point. So, yeah. I guess I should have said that at the beginning, that there will be spoilers in this. But too late now. If you've listened this far, well, good on you. Congratulations. You've now seen the film. Auditorily. Cool. But it's a good movie. I highly recommend it. Rent it, watch it. If you don't care about the spoilers, definitely watch it after listening to this. I would give it, I'd say probably for me, it's somewhere between, I would say probably a 5 through an 8 on the scale out of 10. And the only reason I rate it kind of in that range is just because I wasn't a fan of the ending, really. That's the big thing that's kind of making me like, I don't want to give it, a 10 because of that ending. And I feel like there could have been some other things that they could have expanded upon in the film. I mean, there was so much of this, just almost dead space, if you will, at times, and I was just like, well, we could be watching this or doing this or having this happen. Like, there's so much that could have been happening, and when it didn't happen, that just kind of, it brought the level down just a hair. Not much, but enough to make me kind of go, ooh, I really would like this, or I'd really like that. But other than that, a great movie. I think it's a very worthy predecessor to, or it's a very worthy follow-up to its predecessor, the first one, Quiet Place Part 1. Absolutely, highly recommend you go check it out if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen Part 1, definitely go see Part 2 after you've seen Part 1. This is actually one of those movies where I guess you kind of need to see Part 1, But at the same time, I guess it could kind of stand alone on its own, but you'd be a little lost. You wouldn't understand the whole thing with the earpiece and the speaker, and you wouldn't understand who their dad was. There are some things that wouldn't quite make sense. And that being said, see part 1 before you see part 2. It's just a, common courtesy. Give some love to the whole franchise. But other than that, absolutely love the film. Highly recommend it. I'm going to get on my soapbox real quick here at the end here. We're going to wrap things up here. But I do want to give a shout out to all of the local cinemas right now who are showing this movie to paying customers. It is so good to have our local cinemas coming back and getting out there. They took a very, very big hit during this pandemic, and I think it's safe to say that some of them are still taking a hit. If you get a chance, go to your local cinema. Go support them. Show them your love and support. Tell them thank you for doing what you do. A lot of these kids at these cinemas are high schoolers who are just starting out. This is their first job. And we want to be able to keep letting them do that. We want to keep giving them that experience of their first job. So go out to the cinema. Support them. Check out a movie. Check out a few movies. I went tonight and I went and rewatched The Conjuring. And if you saw our last episode, we talked about that. I went and saw it again. And then I went and paid money to see A Quiet Place Part 2 shortly after that. I bought popcorn and a drink the first time. I bought a drink the second time. I support these theaters, and you should do the same. These kids need that, and these companies need that. Like I said, they took a massive, massive hit during this pandemic, and they're just now starting to get back on their feet. I spoke to some people today. I was like, I didn't know you guys were open 7 days a week. Or I saw a thing, they were doing a thing, $5 Tuesday. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. I said, I didn't know about that. And I was like, I didn't think you guys were open on Tuesday. They said, well, we're now open 7 days a week. And that was just music to my ears to know that they were open 7 days a week. Again, because I was like, hey, that's great. I had seen several movies that were, they were only open on the weekends. And that was a big bummer because there were so many times I just wanted to go watch a movie. And I couldn't because it was a Monday or Tuesday and they weren't open. Now they are 7 days a week. So if you get a chance, go out there, spend a couple hours in a theater. There's nothing like it. I mean, it can't be replicated at home with your fancy sound system and Netflix. It's just not the same. You're not going to get the same experience. I don't care what anybody says. You can fight me on it. You won't get it. Go to the theater, have a good laugh, have a good scare, screams, fall in love, cry. Have all the emotions right there in that theater because these people love what they do. The actors love what they do. The people who create the movies love what they do. The theaters love what they do. So go out there and check them out. Go see a movie at your local theater today. Tell them the Terror Talk sent you. They don't know who we are. Maybe one day they will. But that is going to wrap up today's episode. Episode 6 of the Terror Talks. A Quiet Place Part 2 is what we were talking about. If you like what we do, be sure to give us a like, comment, subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We are now, I am very, very pleased to announce, we are now on Spotify. We are the Terror Talks. So go out there and check us out there if you get a chance. If you're listening to us on one of the visual platforms, then go check us out on the auditory platforms because we could use all the support. We want to build up our following, our fan base. We want to know what you guys want to hear too. So keep in touch with us. Send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. However you can get in touch with us, feel free to message us. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want to see. Maybe we left something out and you want to correct us on something. We're happy to do that too. We would love to have some of you come on and be guests. If you have any insights into the horror, terror world, we'd love to have you come on and be a guest with us. You've already heard we've had guests on the show before, and maybe you are the next guest. So be sure to message us and let us know. You can also email us at theterrortalks@gmail.com. If there's anything you want to, if you don't have one of those social media platforms and you still want to get in touch with us, you can do it that way. We check it very frequently. It's linked up to my cell phone, so I'm always getting the emails, so I will get any contact that you send to me. So, that being said, we want to thank you guys so much for being a listener, being a loyal listener, and we will see you guys next time on The Terror Talks.